Good afternoon. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. I am Christy Davis Uwa, Vice President and Social Action Chair for Pitt County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We are pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been a resident of Pitt County for a long time, as well as those who are new in the area. We'd like to extend a special welcome to the federal and state candidates who will be speaking later this evening. Today marks our Pitt County Town Hall 2022 event, and we are proud to be able to host it today here at Pitt Community College with all of you. Before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the partners who generously helped us make this event come together to become a success. As I call the partner name, I would like the members to stand for a few seconds and then take your seats. Democracy, North Carolina. National Council of Negro Women. Eastern North Carolina Regional Association of Black Social Workers. National Pan-Hellenic Council. Historically Black Colleges and Universities Coalition of Pitt County. Pitt County Alumni Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. The Pitt County Town Hall event is a nonpartisan program that encourages informed and active participation in government. This event is part of our ongoing voter education efforts to help voters make informed decisions at the upcoming midterm elections. We hope that over the course of this program, you will learn more about the candidates and what they hope to do for Pitt County residents and the state of North Carolina. I will now turn it over to Valencia Spate to introduce herself as well as elaborate on emergency response information. Valencia Spate.
Hello, everyone. Oh, so thank you, Christy, for the introduction. As stated, I am Valencia Spate. I am a COVID resource specialist with ECU Health, and I'm just going to speak with you briefly today on COVID-19. I do know that President Biden has lifted the pandemic, and he said that it is not an issue, but I work firsthand with COVID every day. With young and old people, it is still very present. I encourage you all to continue to follow the 3 W's. Wear your mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. Just continue to practice, y'all, okay? And also, for those of you that don't know, I do have a table set up with COVID tests, and I do have some wipes available for you. Just, sanitize your personal areas. And I also have information. If you don't know where to go get vaccinated, please come see me. I can tell you where to be vaccinated. Just give you different information that you might not know. For those of you who do not know, the exits are located here to my right. And if you are looking for the restroom at any time during this evening, if you go out these doors, turn right, you will see you'll be in the lobby area. And your restrooms are to your right-hand side. Also, if there are any questions afterwards, again, my name is Valencia Spate. I'm a COVID resource specialist. Please come see me. Oh, and I'm sorry. And before I leave, I will introduce the Mistress of Ceremony, Miss Sherry Speller.
Good afternoon, everyone. Abraham Lincoln said, elections belong to the people. And it's a wonderful thing that we, the people, are here today to hear from our candidates on the issues that are important to us. And before I go any further, I want to make sure that everyone has at least one copy. You can pick up more than one of the voter guide provided by the Democracy North Carolina and Common Cause. It has all of the candidates on the Pitt County ballot in there, so you can read about them, those who submitted responses to them. They have them printed in here, and take some with you to distribute throughout the community. Definitely want to make sure that we get those out. On the back is some valuable information about, hold on. All right, Christy, what button is it I'm supposed to be pushing? Which one is it to advance it up? Oh, you got the button, okay. So important dates that are on the back of the voting guide. This coming Friday, if you want to vote regular, the way we historically have done it, the deadline is this coming Friday. At the Board of Elections, you can register to vote there. And of course, we know that Thursday, October 20th, one-stop early voting starts, and it continues through November 5th. And the beautiful thing about that is you can register to vote and then vote at the same time. So as you're talking to people in the community, if they have not registered to vote, that's when we definitely want to get them there to that early one-stop voting. And then Tuesday, November 1st, is the deadline to request an absentee ballot if you're not going to be here to vote during those times. We have sites for early voting listed up there. Pitt County Agricultural Center, the Pitt County Office Complex, the ECU Student Center. I'll make a plug for that. It is very easy. Some people say, I don't want to go to ECU because parking. They got it all worked out. Nice, easy parking. Go in, come on out. So try that if you haven't done it before. Community Schools Building, the Winterville Fire Station, all of them also are listed on the back of the voter guide. So you will have that information in your hand. We have done a local survey of issues that matter most to us in our community. And as you look at that pie chart, you'll see that the top three are education, the economy and jobs, and civil rights, followed closely by public safety. And then there was a tie with housing, public health, and environmental justice. So what does that say? We have a lot of issues in front of us that we need to tackle, and we want the very best people in place to do that. That's why we're so excited to be here today to hear from our candidates. I want to also mention that this program is being recorded by the Pitt Greenville Public Access Channel, commonly known as GPAT, on Optimum. I have to remember saying that. Optimum is formerly Suddenlink. Cable 23. So be sure to let people know who could not be here today to watch Optimum 23, GPAT cable, and they'll be able to see the program and get the information that way. Before I bring our dignitaries on the stage, I want to just make sure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Robert Cherry. He'll be coming up soon, and also our timekeeper, Ms. Gia Lewis. Wave. Wave to the people. All right, without further ado, if we can have North Carolina Senator Don Davis for U.S. House Representatives District 1 to come up and take your seat.
Good to see you.
Yeah. North Carolina State Representative Candy Smith could not be here, but I know she has sent a video, so hopefully we'll be able to see that. North Carolina Representative Brian Farkas for re-election to North Carolina House District 9. Bethel Mayor Glorstein Brown for North Carolina House of Representatives District 6. I'm sorry, District 8, District 8. Attorney Charles Vincent for North Carolina House of Representatives, District 8. Judge Carolyn Thompson for North Carolina Court of Appeals, Judge Seat 8. Judge Darren Jackson for North Carolina Court of Appeals, Judge Seat 11. And Pitt County Sheriff Paula Dance for re-election to that position. Thank you, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Cherry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. The following are the rules for today's town hall discussion. Substitutes or stand-ins for the candidate will not be allowed. To preserve a nonpartisan atmosphere during the forum, no campaign banners, signs, or other campaign paraphernalia will be allowed inside the room. Campaign literature may be placed on a designated table outside in the venue's forward. As moderator, I will conduct the forum and have the responsibility to interrupt the proceedings and enforce the ground rules and format. Time limits will be as follows: 3 minutes for an opening statement from each candidate, 2 minutes for responses to the question asked by the moderator, and 3 minutes for a closing statement from each candidate. A timekeeper will keep track of the time allotted to the candidates and as they speak or respond. The timekeeper will hold up a sign at 30 seconds left and stop at the appropriate times to indicate time is up. Questions from the audience will be screened beforehand and will be asked by myself, the moderator. We'll begin with opening statements. Again, you have 3 minutes for opening statements. Mayor Brown, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement beginning now.
Thank you. I'd like to say, oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to say good evening to everyone, and thank you for all of the sponsors for having us here on this afternoon. I am Glorstein Brown. I am mayor of Bethel. I have been an elected official for a total of 23 years. I've been a town commissioner since 1999, and I was put in position as mayor in 2014. I am married. I have 2 adult children, 3 grandchildren. I have enjoyed doing what I'm doing for Bethel, and I just like to say that I'm representing District 8 for House, which is more rural communities in District 8 than in probably most. And I will want to let everyone know that I have worked hard in the town, not alone. I am not a person that likes to say I all the time, but I do understand why I need to. But with my help with the managers and my board of commissioners, we have worked hard for Bethel. I can only speak about Bethel right now, that Bethel once was, and it went away, and now look like Bethel is going to be again. Things are slowly coming. We are out working and working hard, and I realize that when you don't tell your story, nobody else will tell your story, so therefore no one knows what you need. So we had to get out and let people know that Bethel were in need of many things. Rural communities do not have to fight really hard to get the things that they need. And I used a scenario that I felt like we were like the little Chihuahuas, and we have to go, and the Great Danes and all of those big dogs, by the time you get to the bowl, there was nothing left for us. So we had to sort of pick up what we could. So I have rode the road many a days going to Raleigh and DC, trying to speak and let people know what Bethel needed, what our citizens needed in the town and the community. And I'm very optimistic. You may not see what I see, but I was not giving up on my community, and now things are shifting. So I will, the same energy as I always say, I will not change, that I've used for Bethel and the hard work, and I do believe in rolling up my sleeves, and we are considered a food desert. We have no grocery store. So therefore, we had a lot of organizations that have come to Bethel that have really helped. Just had a food distribution yesterday, and they have come to make sure that we have what we need. And anyone call me and say, Mayor Brown, may I come to Bethel? As long as it's right and as long as it's legal, I won't say no, and I'll figure out how to get the job done and make sure that our citizens get what they need. And I will fight and work hard for my district, for Pitt County, and for Eastern North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Senator Davis, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement, beginning now.
Mayor Brown, you're getting me excited. Hey, Pitt County, how's everybody doing today? And to all the coalition partners, let's give a hand to them. Thank you for bringing us together today. And to this distinguished group of candidates and judges and elected officials, truly thank you for being in this fight. My name is Don Davis. I'm a native of Eastern North Carolina. When I was born, I was young. My mom was young, and yeah, I was definitely young. We got that one figured out, y'all. But my mom was young, and my grandmother made a deal with her. She said, hey, I'm going to raise your child, but you need to go off to school, because she understood the value of an education. She hadn't stepped foot on the college campus, but she had a whole lot of wisdom, y'all, a whole lot of wisdom. And it was Grandma that taught me three important values in particular. Through faith, we can move mountains, she would always say to me. She would put her hand and point to the side of her head and say, baby, when you get in here, it's hard to get rid of. And she was talking about the value of a good education. And then she always inspired us to work hard. And she said, I do believe it'll pay off for you. And it's these values. When I looked at the sacrifices that my grandmother and my mom made from being raised by my grandmother to eventually a single-parent household, it's these values and the sacrifices I saw in them that I've held on to me. That's why when I think about their sacrifice and therefore that translate to my service, I'm proud to have served our country in the United States Air Force, active duty, 94 Graduate Air Force Academy. I'm proud to come back home and serve as the mayor of my hometown. I'm proud, watch this, and I'm gonna get this one right, to serve and represent Pitt County in the North Carolina Senate. I'm proud of that fact, y'all. To actually author, Darren, our former minority leader at the time in the House, over 90 pieces of legislation that was signed into law during my 12 years. I'm proud of this work. Now, here's the deal. We know we have not received our fair share in Eastern North Carolina. This state will not be the state that it can be by leaving the East behind. That's why it's up to us to join forces together to make sure that we're fighting for our kids, that we're fighting for good health outcomes, and we're fighting, yes, for high-paying American jobs right here in Eastern North Carolina. It's time for us to come together. Early voting is starting soon on the 20th to get this done. Let's get prepared now more than ever to get our neighbors and friends and everybody out to the polls to cast their vote. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Thompson. I'm a candidate for the North Carolina Court of Appeals, seat number 8. There are, in fact, 4 seats on your ballot this time, and we are not running against each other. I'm on your ballot with over 26 years of legal and judicial experience, being a district court judge for over 10 years, a Superior Court judge when the governor appointed me as the first African-American and female to preside in the 9th Judicial District. I'm on your ballot also because I believe that we must, in this season, uphold our Constitution. For educational background purposes, I attended Hampton University, sociology degree, bachelor's of arts degree in sociology with an emphasis in criminal justice, North Carolina Central School of Law, my Juris Doctorate, 2 years MDiv, or my Master's of Divinity that I'm pursuing. I'm a licensed and ordained minister. I haven't just sat on the bench or argued in front of the bench. I've remained active in the community, being a volunteer teen court judge, because our kids, when they get in trouble, get kicked to the curb. We need to make sure these second chance programs stay in place. And this is a diversion program that I'm proud to say that I've served for over 10 years. On this ballot, I can tell you that I am the only candidate for seat number 8 with actual trial and judicial experience. And with all the issues that you've seen up here, all of those issues are going to come to the bench some kind of way. And you want to make sure that on day 1, we're ready to roll. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me and inviting us to forum. Judge Thompson and I go to a lot of forums, and sometimes there's more candidates than there is people in the audience. So this is a wonderful turnout, and I appreciate you taking your time on this beautiful Sunday to come out and hear from all of us. My name is Darren Jackson. I am currently a judge on the North Carolina Court of Appeals, and I am running for election in November for seat 11. Like Judge Thompson said, we are not opponents. We actually travel the state together a lot. I am married. I have 3 children, 1 granddaughter. I went to public schools in eastern Wake County, Knightdale. Y'all probably know where it is. Some people don't. When I go up to the mountains, they have no idea where Knightdale is. Went to UNC Chapel Hill for undergraduate, and then went to law school at Duke University School of Law. I returned back home to Zebulon, where I practiced law for 25 years with a small town firm. We went everywhere in eastern North Carolina. I like to tell people I've been paid in vegetables. And so we didn't turn down clients. It didn't matter to me if you lived in Nash County or Pitt County or Edgecombe County or where. I could find the courthouse in Tarboro. It wasn't a problem. And so for 25 years, I did all kinds of legal matters. And that's a good thing. It really has it prepared me for the last 20 months on the Court of Appeals. I also served 12 years in the North Carolina House of Representatives, representing eastern Wake County, Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon, where I got to fight a lot of fights, do a lot of good things, meet a lot of great folks. But in the end of 2020, Governor Cooper called me and offered to appoint me to this seat on the Court of Appeals, and it was just, I love the law. I always thought about what I would do next after my service in the General Assembly, and it just seemed like it was time. So I've been on the Court of Appeals since January of 2021. I've written about 110 opinions. It is the type of thing, like Judge Thompson just said, you really need experience on a variety of different legal matters, because the way it works is they come from you. You don't get to specialize in anything. They come on that first day, you get 12 cases, and then 2 weeks later, you get 12 more cases, and 2 weeks later, you get 12 more cases, and it just goes on and on and on, and you don't really have a lot of time to figure out what you're doing. And so experience really does matter. So I'm here to answer any questions within the limits that we as judges have to follow, but thank you all for turning out today.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Farkas. I serve as your state representative in House District 9. And I do want to also thank our coalition partners for coming today. This is a great crowd, and I know everyone's really excited about voting in the elections. Early vote again, October 20th, so be heard. For those who don't know, Pitt County, moving forward, is going to have 2 seats in the North Carolina House, and I thought it might be just so everyone understands kind of the geography of where those districts are, because the lines have changed. District 8, which we have multiple candidates running for, is basically going to be northern Pitt County, coming from Bethel all the way into Greenville. It's got Farmville. It's going to have Grimesland, Simpson, and main campus, Greenville, like East Carolina area. And the Southern District, which I will hopefully continue to represent, is basically coming up from the south with Grifton, Ayden, Winterville, and into Greenville. We'll be in the 9th District come January 1st. And I think that stuff does matter for people to know. Sometimes the lines, they change more than we'd like them to, and the politicians in Raleigh don't make it the easiest for people to understand, but I wanted everyone to get a basic understanding of what we're in. And the good news is, when it comes to House District 9, I grew up right in the middle of it. I am a proud product of Pitt County Public Schools and North Carolina universities, and it's through this area, through the schools, through the community programs, many through as taxpayers or leaders in community groups. You invested in me at a very young age, and I am, through this form of service, doing what I can to make sure that investment pays off. And I've absolutely loved this service in the North Carolina House. I'm serving my first term, and I won it by about exactly 869 votes. So it's tight, and votes do matter, and your voice, like I said, is very, very important to be heard. And I think we have had what I would say is one of the most successful first terms for a member of the state legislature, a rookie coming in as a member of the minority party. I promised when I ran for office I would take my message door to door to get people to understand what I'm about and the energy that I bring. I've hit the ground running in the legislature using my background, having worked in the public sector in emergency management, and now working still in the private sector with a small business that my father started on our family's kitchen room table growing up, to make sure that we can bring people together to solve our biggest problems. And I'm looking forward to talking and highlighting some of those big achievements, and more importantly, talking about what's next. Because we can work as hard as we want, but I don't think an elected official should ever rest on their laurels. The first term is something that I'm really excited about and what we were able to accomplish, but I'm excited to talk about the future and moving Pitt County forward and all of Eastern North Carolina. So I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you all so much for the encouragement and support, and yeah, looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. My name is Drock Vincent. I'm from Pitt County. I grew up here, graduated from Rose High School in 1990. I'm not attorney Charles Vincent, that's my father, but if you know my father, there's no way I was going to take down this sign. He's a great man, and he's been a great judge in Pitt County. I own Heritage Plank Floors in Ayden, North Carolina. We make wood floors out of old barns and old warehouses. I've been self-employed for 20 years. I sign the front and the back of my paycheck. We pay taxes every 15th and 20th, and it's something that the experience of owning my business through the Great Recession is something that I want to take to help northern Pitt County. I'm not a professional politician, but I get results. I'm a result-driven person. My party, I'm a Republican. I'm a moderate Republican. My party actually is in power in Raleigh. So that means that as District 8's representative, a moderate Republican, people know my family. They know the Vincent family, know they're fair, good people. I have a seat at the table. Everybody can talk about what they want to do, but I will be at the table bringing results back for northern Pitt County, working with other legislators, working with mayors, working with our sheriff, who was my former next door neighbor, so she probably knows more about me than I hope. But nevertheless, great woman. And I just want you to have an open mind and look at my platform and realize that I want to bring results back to Pitt County. I do not care about playing politics. I want to bring results back to Pitt County. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I think everybody knows who I am. Maybe the uniform and the badge kind of gives it away. I am not wearing pink because I am a female sheriff. I'm wearing pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I want to take a moment to say that. I am a 30-year-plus law enforcement officer. The majority of that time was spent as a deputy sheriff in a sheriff's office. During that time, I was able to learn a lot, meet a lot of people, get a lot of ideas about the way that the issues that face us today. And in 2018, when I decided to run, and when I became your first African-American sheriff in Pitt County and the first African-American female sheriff in the state of North Carolina, I told you some things. One of the things that I told you was that I could hit the ground running, and I did. I also made some other promises as far as transparency goes in our community. It is important for accountability to have that transparency. And I said I was going to get body cameras, and I got body cameras. I also looked at some issues that we were facing in our community dealing with opioids, the opioid situation, and mental health, the co-occurring mental health. And I know that as sheriff, it is my duty, and I will continue to do this, to enforce the law. But at the same time, I know that we have to give people the tools to do better and be better. I know that mental health, people facing mental health crises does not belong in the detention center. I know that people who are in our community with mental health issues, that law enforcement is not the person or the people who are trained to handle those issues. So I embedded the mental health professionals with our law enforcement officers who respond to those calls. I made promises, and I kept those promises, but yet there is still more to do. And I plan on doing those things as we move forward. I ask you for your continued support for me as your sheriff of Pitt County. I think I did a good job. I hope you think I've done a good job. And so let your voices be heard if you think so on Election Day and during early voting. Thank you.
Thank you for your opening statements. We'll now move into our questions. This first question is for state office candidates. How do you plan to impact the cost of health care in our state? Again, how do you plan to impact the cost of health care in our state? We'll begin with you, Mr. Vincent.
Yes, thank you. The Republicans have started looking at cleaning up Medicaid so that we can actually have Medicaid expansion. I know people have been calling that for years, and in order to do something like that, just like in business, you've got to clean it up first. You can't have people on the rolls that don't deserve to be on the rolls, because then you're leaving out the people that absolutely deserve to be on the rolls. So I'm happy to see that there is movement on Medicaid expansion, and I think that as long as it's accountable, then I'll support that as well.
Great. Thank you for the question. I'll talk briefly about 2 points that I want to make. I believe very clearly that the number one thing we can do to help control costs, and particularly Eastern North Carolina, is expand Medicaid in North Carolina. I am a strong advocate for it. I was actually the only member in the State House, the only freshman and the only Democrat who was put on a special committee that was formed after the budget called basically an assessment of all health care and Medicaid expansion special committee. And to Brock's point, there does seem to be some movement on the Republican side. We have continued to push very hard on this, and I'm not going to stop, because Medicaid expansion means a big deal for a place like ours. It's going to stabilize our health care system. It's going to cover 13,000 additional people in Pitt County. It's going to create 500 new jobs based on estimates we've seen. And we've also seen about $114 million is estimated in economic impact. And that's Pitt County alone. We're looking at more about 600,000 North Carolinians when we talk statewide. So Medicaid is a time that it's an issue whose time has come a while ago. I guess the one good thing we can say is that all these other states, blue states, red states, have done it, and we have learned what works and what doesn't, and we will continue to make that happen, and I am very optimistic we are going to finally get this done. And the other thing I want to talk about controlling costs briefly is prescription drug prices. And this is something that I have worked, and I am working currently with in my office. And next year, we are hoping that we'll be able to roll out a prescription drug price transparency program. This has been done in other states. The basic idea being that drug companies should be held accountable for the prices they put out, and that citizens should be able to easily access that information and see exactly why those prices are what they are. The state of Virginia has done it, and it is something we are exploring now in my office, and I'm hoping to see some legislation on that moving in my second term. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Davis. Feel free to respond. I did, but we'll go to you.
Oh, okay. I'll be obedient.
Thank you.
I just want, my point is directly on point with Representative Farkas. I will do everything I can once I get in office and get there to get right on board, because I do know the feeling and know the pain of not having Medicaid. Everyone needs it that are qualified, and make sure that they have the coverage that they need. The drug cost, I do know, and when I hear citizens say that I have to decide between buying groceries or, and trying to buy medicine, and some people are getting sick because they just cannot afford that cost. So I'm glad that there was a cap on the, I could think it was insulin or for diabetes or diabetics, but I am going to do everything I can to learn and get on board. But I will promise you this, I will support every effort that is made to help what would make things a lot better for the citizens and the cost. And when you hear, and especially my seniors, when I hear them talking and complaining, and they have a right to, they do, they have a right to, but no one should have to decide to make that decision whether I want to buy groceries or get my medication, and then that's where you're losing so many of your population because they're dying because they're not getting the correct care that they need. And I think this Medicaid expansion, I feel like once it's structured, it may need to be restructured, but we need to watch it closely that people are just not abusing it and use it the right way that it should be used.
Thank you. Our next question is for you, Senator Davis, our federal candidate. What is your stance on the proceedings of the January 6th committee investigating the Capitol Hill riot?
Can you repeat that again?
What is your stance on the January 6th committee investigating the Capitol Hill riot?
My stance on the January 6th resurrection riots, or what do we want to call it, is I think it's the right thing to do to provide oversight to get to the facts of what took place, because even in my race here, my opponent found fit to get in a vehicle to drive to Washington, D.C. on January the 6th. Now, at the end of the day, as I was sharing earlier, every office I've held, every time I was promoted in the military, every office I was reelected to, I held my hand, as the judge said, to uphold the Constitution. And to see people going to Washington, D.C., rappelling off the chamber, tearing out windows, 140 law enforcement officers injured, and then you begin to see deaths, and to still double down and say, stop the steal? What in the world? It is up to all of us now more than ever to show up at this election and to vote to save our democracy.
Thank you. Our next question is for Sheriff Dance. What do you feel is the single most important reason people should vote to re-elect you as Pitt County Sheriff?
Well, I feel that experience matters. Experience matters. It absolutely matters. The experience that I bring to the table far outweighs any experience of anyone that's running against me. I know what the issues are in our community. I've identified what those issues are. I believe that I have the training and the skills and the abilities and the vision to make sure that our community is safe. Just even by the things that I've done in my first 4 years, by creating programs, by making sure that I have people that are in the right places that I surround myself with to help me make sure that we are moving forward. The technology that we've brought in, or the resources that we've brought in under my leadership, it's just too many to know. It's too numerous to name, but certainly, I am the candidate who, again, in 2018, told you that I could hit the ground running. I'm already running, and I'd like to continue to run on as we move forward in making sure that our community is safe. Just look at my record, look at the things that I've done, and I'm sure that you would agree with me.
Thank you. This next question is for our judicial candidates. We'll begin with you, Judge Jackson. What is your judicial philosophy?
It's really pretty simple, to be very fair and impartial and treat everyone that comes before me with respect. On the Court of Appeals, there's 15 judges, and we sit in panels of 3. And so my theory is I shouldn't care who wins or who loses. And if I do, for some reason, like it's an issue I've supported in my past legislative service, then I just take a recusal, because there's 12 other judges that can fill in for me. But I just feel like a judge should never have an interest in the case, should never care who wins or loses, who just should be reviewing the record and making sure that the person received a fair trial and that the law was followed. And in the end of the day, I think even when people lose their cases, if they feel like they got a fair shot and a fair hearing and the case was decided on its merits and the law, then I think that builds faith in the judicial system. When people make decisions, judicial decisions based on politics or religion or their personal preference, then that hurts the judicial system. And so I just don't think it has any place. So I just try to be fair and impartial. Really, it's pretty simple.
Thank you.
As judicial candidates, we're all going to tell you that it is important that our court system be impartial, fair, even keel. But when you have people touting that they are originalists or textualists, my response is that the Constitution has to reflect the people in which it serves. It is, in fact, a living, breathing document. And so when I am talking about my candidacy, I say I am upholding the Constitution and laws of our state. That means I'm holding true to the oath that I have taken a number of times being a district court judge and a superior court judge. And so our philosophy is not that we are going to tout or tote the party's water, if you will. We are good judicial candidates because we've put the time in. We've put the experience before the people to look at our history and what we've done and what we've brought to the table to make sure we are informed about who's presiding. You don't want to wait until it's a bad day and you're trying to figure out who the judge is. Do the research now and understand that when we say we're the ones who will uphold our Constitution and our laws, that is our judicial philosophy.
This next question is for all candidates. What are you doing to engage young people to vote? Again, what are you doing to engage young people to vote?
Well, in my house, if you're 18, you're in somebody's car on early voting day, and there are no questions asked. But also to inform them about the importance of their vote and matching their vote to their voice. When I have been out and talking to a lot of people about the campaign, I focus in on the person when I'm checking in Charlotte at a hotel, the young man who's helping me get my suitcase in my car. And the first thing I want to know is, are you registered? And then this young man, after I had just spent all afternoon with a bunch of lawyers and, hoity-toity people, and I said, young man, are you registered to vote? He says, no, ma'am, I don't believe in the voting. And we spent 30 minutes at it about, do you understand what happened in order for you to get to this place to vote? And if you don't vote now, it's going backwards. And so after having that conversation, because that's what it's about, don't talk at them, don't talk to them and spouse out all these things. Have a conversation so they understand from where we have come from and where they're trying to take us back.
My children keep telling me I need to use social media and TikTok and Instagram, but judges just can't do anything that would be funny enough or interesting enough to go viral, I don't think. So, I know Judge Thompson does the same thing. When we get invited to groups, whether it's at colleges or community colleges, I try to speak. I try to encourage people to get out. I do use the Twitter. I think that's what I call it, the Twitter, and Facebook, which I know is not a young demographic anymore, but it is tough. It's tough. It's really hard to get people excited, especially when you can't really talk about the issues that are important to them. I mean, it really doesn't matter if I have an opinion on student loan debt relief or anything like that, but you can't talk about it even if you did. And so all you can do is go out and try to meet people and tell them it's important that they vote. And I think if you do that, instead of saying it's important that you vote for X party or Y party, but just explain to them, no matter who they vote for, it's important that they vote and their voices are heard. I don't think anybody, I want to win my election, but you know what? If 80, 90% of North Carolina turns out and I lose, I can accept that. But when some of these municipal elections last year we had, there were like 8 and 9% of the voters that turned out. And that's really sad. Compare America to other countries across the world. We've had people who have fought and died for the right to vote, who have marched and been beat up for the right to vote. And then our young people just don't seem to, I mean, and you look demographically, the older you get, the more likely you are to vote. You can see it. It's like a staircase. And so it's a great question. I wish I knew the answer. I can just go everywhere I'm asked to go and try to talk to them about the importance of voting.
Thank you.
Turned off. Oh, okay, we're back. Okay, we're great. Well, I will say I'm one of the youngest members of the North Carolina legislature at the age of 35, and I think that has been a really interesting perspective to talk about how we engage younger folks to actually vote, because I'd say the average age of our legislature is nowhere near my age. It's touching 65, maybe 70, and means whole generations of people are not having their voices heard. And I put a little extra pressure on myself because of that. That's why my office has been very, very diligent and intentional about making sure if there's ever internship opportunities or page programs in the legislature, that we take advantage of every opportunity, to the point where we engage our social studies teachers in all of our public schools to make sure that students know what is going on and what opportunities are really in front of them. And you know, it doesn't stop there. I think there are some things in the legislature that we can do, some backward policies that were put in place to actually try to create those opportunities for youth to be inspired. Because I know I certainly was. In fourth grade, I was part of the fourth grade trips that they always took to Raleigh. I had wonderful teachers every step of the way who inspired me, from elementary school to middle school to Dr. Guidry at J.H. Rose High School. I mean, I could name these teachers who inspired me, and also shout out to my mom, who made me go to the polls with her every day growing up, or every time she went and voted. But we need to make sure that we can take some of these steps forward. One thing I want to do is repeal the law that stopped our teachers from being able to pre-register students who are 17-year-olds to go to the polls. Why are we trying to discourage people from getting to know about their election process? So I think that's a very tangible thing that we can solve, and I will continue to do it. And again, our government is what we make it, and I think it's on us as elected officials to try to inspire the next generation to come in behind us and want to be a part of this process and want to lead. I'm going to work hard to make it happen every day.
Thank you. Well, it sounds like I can be one of the youngest people in the General Assembly as well. Then I'm 50 years old, so that makes me feel good. But I live right on ECU's campus. People park in my yard for football games and tailgate, and we have a good time. A lot of my neighbors are students. I can't go for a walk around the neighborhood without hearing somebody go, "Vincent for House!" And I wave at them. And because I wear my T-shirt, I have to. But I like meeting with the students around. I bring back wood for them. A lot of these students like burning fire pits, and I bring back wood from my mill. And they come by and pick up wood, and I always tell them, "Now you got to vote. Are you registered? Make sure you're registered." So that, along with being a coach, I coach soccer and coach baseball, and constantly talk to them about the importance of voting. And through my business, I have a lot of young craftsmen that I see putting down floors on job sites and stuff like that, and they share the same feeling that it's not even worthwhile voting. And I tell them, "Nah, I don't care who you vote for. You need to go make your voice heard." And but I just love young people. I love coaching young people, and I think the future's bright. Thank you.
Well, I think charity starts at home, and so does voting. My children always saw me go vote, and I know that they're going to go vote, and then their children are going to go vote as they watch their parents. You will also see me engage a lot with our young people. I had Girl Scouts in the office just recently, and I know they couldn't be more than 7 or 8 years old, but I was stressing the importance of how I got to where I was, because it was people who voted for me, that voting matters. And so even as young as 7 or 8 years old, I'm telling them that this is the process, this is how it works. People must vote, otherwise I wouldn't be where I'm at today. By the mere virtue of me being a black woman and being the sheriff, somebody went out and voted. And it was some young folks out there as well. And that encourages them when they look and they see my pictures on billboards, or they see me on TV, or they see me as the sheriff, then they know their vote mattered. And so I've even started a teen academy now with the sheriff's office. And we talk about the process, voting. Voting is very important. All of my conversations, no matter if they're 7 or 17, this is the American way. This is the process. You must vote. I got here because people voted for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Davis.
I was riding in a parade in Washington County a few weeks ago, and there was nothing more fulfilling than this. There was a kid, he looked like he was about 10 years old. And in the car, he says, "Oh, that's Don Davis, Don Davis." And he looks and he says this, "I'll vote for you, but I'm too young." There's no substitute to what the sheriff has said, and that's getting out there engaging with our kids. And this is at the core of my race here in this run. It is time now in Eastern North Carolina for the next generation of young leaders, young professionals, entrepreneurs to step up to the plate to make sure that we get our fair share and we're tackling these issues that are impacting our families. That means, too, that young people must be a part of the fight and understand what the fight is about. When we think about tuition, it was the right thing to do, to cut the tuition. From 1970 to 2021, somewhere in there, a 2,580% increase in tuition. I mean, dollars and cents, about $400 to well over $10,000. People are struggling, and we know that is a lifeline to really living the American dream. And yes, right here in Eastern North Carolina. Now I'm going to say this. We needed to have a new Brody School of Medicine to increase access, go into the East, grow our own. Warren County High School deactivated JRTC, reactivated a Space Force. And yes, we needed to protect Elizabeth City State University with a premier aviation program. Where am I heading? Our students can be doctors, astronauts, and pilots too.
Thank you.
I think it's all been said. But as a leader in my town and in my community, I think I utilize my time whenever I'm called, regardless whether it's in Bethel or within the county, and I'm asked to come speak at a school. And I know that a lot of children, when I go into the school, they're looking at somebody and they're looking at a person like me, like them. And, it's like, oh, wow, you can do this. I can do this. And I always think that we even need to, education is the key to getting people to really understand. And I think when people do not really understand what is really going on, because sometimes all that jibber jabber, when they get it on TV or they are mistold, information is not given correctly, then you have people have doubts. And when they have doubts, then they'll get the attitude, well, why should I vote? It doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. But I think we got to re-educate people and let them have them to understand that, to know that your vote, yes, it do count, because when you don't vote, you still voting. And people need to understand that. And my little granddaughter, I thank God for her, my oldest one. She watches me like a hawk, and she wants to know every little thing. Grandma, why do they have to fuss? Grandma, why we can't have this? Grandma, why they can't do that? And when she's out and about, I want you to vote for my grandma, so that's your biggest, but I think just going into the school system, in the churches, wherever we can get this information put out to people so that they can really understand what is going on, I think that we would probably get a better turnout on our young folk. But they got to believe in us. So we got to walk that walk as well as talk that talk, so they can be more confident in their elected officials.
Thank you. The next question is for all candidates. What are your plans to work with the opposite party to resolve conflict? Again, what are your plans to work with the opposite party to resolve conflict? And we'll begin with Sheriff Dance.
The law does not have a party. The law is the law. It applies to everybody equally. Party does not matter. There's not a Republican law. There's not a Democratic law. There is the law. And again, it applies to everyone.
Very true. Also, there's not one party that's 100% right, and there's not one party that's 100% wrong. We've got to work hard to meet in the middle and find a solution. I'm result-driven. I don't want to just talk about stuff. I can't stand going to meetings and we leave the meeting and there's no solution. That doesn't make, as a person, that doesn't make sense. And also in business, you realize it doesn't matter who's saying it. It doesn't matter if you really like that person or hang out with that person. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. And if it's a good idea, I'm going to back it. And fortunately, we do have people that do that in the General Assembly. Not a lot, but we do. So that's what I would do, is just try to do common sense things. And if it's a Democrat that has a great idea, I'm going to back it 100%. If it's good for the people of Pitt County, I can promise you that. And, you know, we've got a 2-year term. All the stuff that I say here today, in about 1.5 years, I can be judged on. I have a seat at the table, and I want to bring results to Northern Pitt County. Northern Pitt County has been ignored for too long. We have not gotten our fair share. I'm a lifelong resident of Pitt County. I know this. Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited about that question because it's something I have been doing in my first term. Like I mentioned earlier, as a member of the minority party, as a proud Democrat, yes, I was the only one put in the Special Committee on Medicaid expansion. I was the only freshman Democrat in the room when it came to the budget negotiations this year. And I've quickly established a reputation as being someone who is willing to work with anyone as long as we are moving the needle of progress in the right direction. That's important to me because I don't want to do this job forever. I'm here to do the work that I told you I would do and to leave things better, and I found it. That's how I was raised, and that's what's really important to me. And I think the results in our first term speak for themselves. In this budget, I was able to secure $320 million and deliver it in direct investment to Pitt County as a member of the minority party working with Senator Davis. We've got the new medical school building. We've got a new exciting incubator for businesses in southern Pitt County down in Ayden that's going to help first-time farmers and packagers get their product to the market. I mean, there's a dynamic level of investment in this area, and it's because we have a reputation of working hard and not being a show horse and being a workhorse, and that stuff really matters. And the one thing I'll quickly say, too, on all this is when I arrived in Raleigh, I noticed very quickly that members of my party and members of the Republican Party didn't really talk to each other a whole lot. And that was a problem for me because, I don't know, growing up in Pitt County in eastern North Carolina, I never grew up hating the other party like that. I don't know where that comes from, and that's not okay. And so we got to know people outside of work, after 5 p.m., you know, get to know each other, engage each other, have an authentic relationship and back it up with the results that you've brought. And we were able to make that happen, and I think that outside the box and that outside the workroom mentality really gave me the credibility to actually do the work inside the room. So I'm going to just continue to bear down, double down on what I've done and how I've done it for our area, and I think the sky's the limit. Thanks.
Let me make sure. Yeah, let me make sure. Want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will continue to do what I'm doing now, and that is I have no problem when there's an issue or if there's a problem, I do not see party. I see the people. And all I know is that I'm going to keep nagging at you until you're going to get tired of me, and you're going to say, look, let's do something for that woman because she's got to get out of my face. I'm sick of her. And I have done that thus far, so I have no problem. Now in the General Assembly, I have friends on both sides, and I have no problem with working with both sides. I tell people it's not about about politics, it's about the people. So when we realize that if we take that out of the equation then and concentrate on the issues, I think we can get more done. But I don't have time to fight, fuss, and argue. I just want to make sure that whatever I be presented with, that I can take it and that they can understand why Eastern North Carolina, Pitt County need the help that they need, and I will keep nagging. That's it.
Oh, I've shared with you about Grandma. And Grandma would always say, you got to find the good in everybody. I would say to you that I would compare my record next to anyone. When I shared with you over my 12 years of authoring over 90 pieces of legislation that's been signed into law, I'm one of 3 Democrats in the North Carolina Senate that actually served during the Democratic majority. During that Democratic majority, I was getting started good. I authored 16 pieces of legislation that was signed into law. As a Democrat, if you do the math on that, I've authored over 70 pieces of legislation signed into law during the Republican majority. I will put that record next to anyone. And the way you get there is, as Representative Farkas was saying, building relationships. You start building relationships in your caucus, build relationships in the other caucus, and watch, you're not smart if you only build relationships in your chamber. You then have to go to the other chamber. At the end of the day, when it comes down to fighting for issues that you believe in, you have to be able to count. You have to get the votes. And at the end of the day, I focus often on the issues that I see impacting Eastern North Carolina families the most. And when you do that, there's often so much commonality. So with that being said, I went over 5 seconds, I believe, on the last question. It's 15 now. I'm practicing something, y'all. I yield back the balance of my time.
That's good practice, by the way. The fact of the matter is, when I have presided in court, never have I asked a family broken in front of me, are you a Democrat or Republican? When I've had to sentence a defendant, I've never asked, are you a Democrat or Republican? I've never asked the question because it does not matter when you're rendering justice. Another fact is that currently I am the Democratic nominee. Another fact is that on the Court of Appeals, there are 15 judges, and 10 of them are Republican and 5 are Democrats. The same way I've held court and made sure that it's justice for everyone, regardless, is the same way I'm going to walk in the Court of Appeals office, despite the fact of whether or not we're in the majority or the minority. If I don't agree with how the case is going to outcome, I have and will exercise the right to dissent, regardless of the party affiliations of my colleagues who are also rendering the 3-panel decision. It has to be that way for our court system to work, to make sure that we're transparent and fair, so that when you look at the ruling, you shouldn't be able to tell whether or not it was a Republican or a Democrat who wrote the opinion. Did justice prevail? That's the only question.
I don't know that I could add to that. Judge Thompson, I think she gave the perfect answer on that. So I'll just say ditto.
All right, thank you. This next question we'll pose to our state, federal candidates for office. Can you share your thoughts on educational gag orders, efforts to legally restrict education on topics like race, history, gender, and sexual identities in grades K through 12? Mayor Brown.
Okay. When it comes to that, I'm just, I'm a little torn on it, but my thing is, I know that we need to keep things right when it comes to education. And there are things that our children should not have privy to, but there are certain things that I think that and I don't want to say anything about the LGBTQ and all of that because I think some things need to be left at home. And I think the parents need to have, and because everyone that, when I think about that, if you don't have the right person in the education setting, and if they're not, they may have their opinions about how they are teaching your children or how they are disseminating that information to your kids, it could be damage there. So my thing is to allow the parents, let that come from home. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. But in education and even with banning of the books, all of that, I just think that is a decision that should come from the parents. I know when I went to school, there were certain books that I would bring home. No, my mom and my dad were not educated, so a lot of things my mom couldn't read or write. But there were times that my dad understood some of the things, and he would just ask, so let me look at this and let me look at that. So, but I'm just saying that I think that a lot of things just still need to come from home. Yes, our children need to understand if there are questions that need to be answered, but have the right people in place in order for this stuff to be done within your school setting. And with education, I am 100% behind our teachers. They do have a lot to do, and we just need to, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it there.
I'm going to say in all due respect, we have seen a lot of politics surfacing in education, and what these questions actually do is take us away from the real issues. The real issues at hand, because I don't even really want to give ear to the question from the perspective. The real issues at hand, adults have failed kids in this state. When you look at the Landreau ruling, billions of dollars, I'm saying, have not made into these classrooms. We need to continue to shore up early childhood education. That's the start there. That's the start. We need to make sure the resources make it into the classrooms. We need to go on then to make sure that kids in the state in particular have an access to a higher education or the ability to go on to get a certification to the trades, short-term workforce development. There's been a whole lot more conversations. And yes, in the midst of all of this, hear what I'm about to say. We need to show all educators that they are respected. That's the real issue at hand.
Representative Farkas.
Thank you. I'll be somewhat simple on, and I agree with Senator Davis. A lot of this issue has been really pushed in the media and by a certain political party over the last few years to try to drive divisions between us. And at the end of the day, when it comes to what we're teaching in our schools, we've got to trust our teachers first and foremost. My brother is a social studies teacher, and he needs to be able to teach everything in our history: the good, the very bad, the ugly, and everything in between. How else do we learn? How else do we grow? How else do we move forward as a society unless we can really look back and learn from the mistakes we've made and the successes? So that's where I'm on this position. I believe that we don't need to patronize children and make them feel like they're dumber than they are, what they can and cannot hear and be learned in our schools. And again, let's trust the educators. Let's take the politics out of this and let's just do the right thing. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think we all agree there's way too much politics surrounding our public education. Again, back to problem solving. We've got a problem at Elmhurst Elementary. They've always had 4 fourth grade classes. We're jamming them into 3 classes now in 4th grade at Elmhurst. There's like 30 people per student. 30 people per class. And in one class, I think only a third of those students are really at 4th grade level. So out of 3 classes, only 2 1/3 are at 4th grade level. So we got bigger problems than worried about someone's sexuality. I think that's the parents' responsibility. I don't think there's really any role of that in public schools. I don't want anyone talking to my children about, I've got a 1st grader, about her sexuality. That's not a matter of fact, that kind of crosses the line. I totally agree with Brian about teaching the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's no reason to try to sugarcoat it. Everybody needs to be educated on the history, and you know, parts that are not fun to look at. But the good news is we've really trying to do the right thing, and pass it to the sheriff. Oh no. I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman.
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. This next question is to all candidates, and Sheriff Dance, I guess we'll begin with you. How do you define well-being?
Well-being?
Yes, how do you define well-being?
Wow, that's a big question. I only got 2 minutes for this. So well-being is living in a great community, being able to go to go to Walmart and safely, to be able to sleep at night safely, to be able to, most importantly, send your children to school safely. So for me, well-being is having a safe, when you look at it from my perspective, a safe community, a community where we all can thrive, and that includes people who goes into our detention center. That includes those people who we want to help and give the tools so that they can come out and be safe too, because as long as they're learning to live in a society the way that most people should live in society, then they're not reoffending. So well-being to me is about safety, as it should be.
Thank you. Let's move to Judge Thompson, if you respond. Then you, Judge Jackson.
Well-being on the judicial level looks like a day when it doesn't matter if you have enough money to pay a high-priced lawyer, you will get your fair shot and your day in court. Well-being, to me, looks like when the times that I have presided in Superior Court at any given day, it could easily be my family reunion, and that changes. Well-being for me, I think about my grandbabies who are all biracial, and it shouldn't matter whether or not they have a kink in their hair and the tone of their skin. Well-being, how much time I got? Because I feel my help coming on. All right. And so we've got to get to a place where it's comfortable to have a conversation without a controversy, and to be able to listen quickly and respond slowly so that it won't be an adversarial and rhetoric that's dividing us, because quite frankly, there's so many things that we have more in common than that make us different. But it's the differences that are taking over the court system, the legislative branch, and any branch of government, and we've got to get back to a place of being able to talk. So that looks like well-being to me.
I guess it's me. Well-being for me looks like people engaging in the process. Well-being looks to me that we are working together to make sure that voting is accessible, it's easy, it's still safe. It's, to me, us joining forces to do everything to restore confidence in our process. It is, to me, when we do everything, those who are most engaged working to get our family, friends, our neighbors out, that we have confidence at the end of the day that the outcomes would best fit those who are working to make sure that when we are able to, or when it comes down to our families, we're able to truly live with healthy lives, we're able to put food on the table, maybe have a few extra dollars to go on a vacation and really, in my opinion, I'll say it this way, live the American dream. The American dream. Yes, even right here in eastern North Carolina. And that well-being to me is getting to the day and point in time that we're not feeling that we have been left behind, that we feel that we are growing and prospering just as other parts of the state.
Well-being to me, being a mayor in a small town, is when I can see that the day that our citizens, our seniors, our children do not have to worry about sometimes where their next meal is coming from because we do not have access to a grocery store. Being able to see people that will feel more comfortable when they can sit out on the porch and everybody comes together and walk in the streets, and even our young people going up to our elder, and they are taking time to speak with our kids now more so than they ever have, trying to be that role model, that grandma or that grandpa. To me, being able to see that our Pitt County, when all of our small towns as well as our cities, because they do have the resources, but when our small towns as a whole all around can come together and everybody is pretty much on the same page, that we can share our resources, because if one don't have, then the other one shouldn't mind sharing how they obtain what they have to make their, I know one size do not fit all, but my well-being to me is just seeing Pitt County as a whole, like I say, go in a circle and meet, that all of our citizens are reaping the same benefits. And no one is saying, I wish, how did you get that? How did you do that? But we'll be able to share and say, okay, this is what happened in Bethel. Let's go over to Grimes and let's see, can we make it work? And that way everybody will be pretty much on the same page. But that's what it means to me.
Well-being, the first thing that popped in my head is the way I try to have my life every day. After going through the Great Recession and losing everything I had, did not declare bankruptcy, but lost absolutely everything I had. Got divorced. The business just barely survived. And so since that point, well-being to me is 3 words: peace of mind. And that's what I search for every single day. That's the decisions that I make in my business. All right, that does look good, but will I have peace of mind? So it's everything everyone said, but I think wrapped up in peace of mind. Thank you.
Good. And I'll define well-being, and again, ideal well-being, as basically a situation where you can live, where you can work, where you can play in a community that where you are safe and where you are valued for who you are and respected and encouraged. I think it's a place where people come together, where we can solve our biggest problems and no one gets left behind. I think that really matters. And I think as I've campaigned over this term and as I've over the last term and worked and campaigned this term, I've heard a lot of stories about some of the things we need to tackle directly. I mean, housing affordability is a major issue in this community. And we should be able to foster a well-being in this community where someone doesn't just get by, they can actually get ahead. And so I think that's the big, I guess, overarching definition for me, where we can create people to have that room, a little extra spending money, to be able to invest in themselves, and where communities embrace people for who they are and support them and foster them to be successful in whatever they choose to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Due to time limitations,
I mean, I'm really just saying what everybody else said, but
feel free.
When you ask the question to me, maybe it's because I've got my phone sitting up here, but I think about my granddaughter, and I think about the number of homeless children we have in this country, uneducated children, hungry children, sick children, and we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And I know we can be, and I know we have been, but when we look at those problems in our society, I know we have a long way to go. And although I think it's important that we continue to hold people responsible for things like happened on January 6th, it's really sad to me that gets a lot of our focus. That's what the media chooses to cover and talk about, or that we even have to talk about who won or lost this election. I mean, I fill out candidate questionnaires, guys, all the time, and they ask, one of the questions they ask on the questionnaire is, do you think the result of the 2020 election was fair? I mean, did you really think we'd ever have to use that as a barometer about how we're doing as a country? I mean, that's a question they ask in Venezuela, right? Or in Russia with Putin getting 80 or 90%. He'd probably still get 90% of the vote in his elections today. But that's what gets our focus, and we have so many other problems that we need to focus on. So what I think about when I think about well-being is how are we treating the least of ours, our children.
With that said, we must move to our closing statements. Mayor Brown, since we began our opening statements with you, we'll move to you, Sheriff Dance, to start us with our closing statements. You have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
All right. So as sheriff, again, you know, I know that I bring the experience and that it takes to continue to be your sheriff and continue to keep our communities safe. I want you to understand that it is important that you know who your sheriff is and who you are electing as your sheriff. And I can tell you, by being your sheriff, our crime rates are down in the rural areas. I cannot speak for the city. Please don't keep that. Don't put that on me. The rural areas, the crime rates are down. I've expanded programs for mental health and the co-occurring substance use abuse. When I asked for money to continue to help me keep these programs continuing, I was turned down. So you know what? I was denied but not delayed because I went out and got a $1.3 million grant. Get it done. You know, I've now deployed cameras around the county to help deter crime in our high call volume areas. So I've been working hard. I have not just sat there and held a title for 4 years. I've been busy for the last 4 years. I plan on being busier the next 4 years. I've mirrored our community because I think that our deputies in my office ought to mirror what my community looks like. I've hired more African Americans, I've hired more women, I've hired the Latino population, I've hired just recently a Middle Easterner, because our community or my agency should look like our community. I've worked very, very hard. Continuity matters. Continuity matters. I don't think that we need to bring in a new sheriff that shakes up everything all of a sudden, then got to start all over again. A person who has not had that experience would take them 4 years to even learn how to be a sheriff. I am a sheriff. I've been a sheriff. And I plan on continuing to make our community safer and better through just giving people the tools to make them better. I could not be more pleased and humbled that you all chose me as your sheriff 4 years ago. And I'll be even more pleased and humbled if you would decide to choose to elect me as your sheriff again. So I will end with this, and this one simple thing, this one simple request. Will you dance with me?
That's my next door neighbor right there. But I just want to say, I hinted at this earlier, I'm just thankful for how blessed I've been being able to make it through the Great Recession. I tell people about that. I'm not I could not be in a crowd this size without seeing about 3 people that I'd owe money to. And it was just terrible. I couldn't go to church. I couldn't go anywhere. Thank the Lord. We paid everybody back. We did not declare bankruptcy, and I'm proud. I'm not bragging. This is what's given me the time to do this. My business is completely debt-free. The land, the machinery, the trucks, the trailers, everything. So glory to God that, because I can promise you, there were some people that were really worried about me. They were really worried about me, and but I'm just so thankful. This is a 2-year. I do feel like I'm the best person to represent Northern Pitt County. I do feel like that just because I'm a Republican, I feel like we have a lot of things in common. I'm willing to talk to anybody. I share my cell phone. I'm here today to build a relationship. That's why I'm here. We've been talking about relationship. I'm here to build a relationship. I want what's best for Pitt County. That's what I want. Again, I've got a seat at the table. I'm a Republican. I'll be in meetings when the budgets are drawn, okay? I'm not saying that means I'm better or worse, but I'm just saying I will be at the table. And I look forward to having relationships built with people on after 5 o'clock and working with people. I'm result-driven. I love Pitt County, and I want Pitt County to have its fair share. The other communities are getting more than we're getting based on their sizes, and I feel like I'll be the best representative for 2 years. If not, kick me right, slam out. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for having us. And thank you for those who were at the polls and voted for me last time. Serving Pitt County's 9th District has been the absolute honor of my life. And I have worked hard every day to make you proud. I'm going to continue because, folks, we can't go backward. We have achieved so much, and I am resolutely committed to continuing Pitt County's move forward. I think we've got a lot of people in leadership that are poised to work together and take us to the next level if given that opportunity. My approach to governing and what government should be is relatively simple. Government should be a place where we all come together and we work our hardest to make sure that no one gets left behind. Because the idea that we're all in this together is a whole lot better than you're on your own. That's what I think. And that's the approach I've tried to take working with Democrats and Republicans to move our county and our region forward. I am so proud of the achievements. I talked about $320 million in direct investment for this county in my first term as a freshman in the minority party. I'm excited about that. That includes that new $215 million Brody School of Medicine that's going to grow the physician class size and place more primary care physicians that actually practice in North Carolina. That includes a personal passion project of mine where we got support team assisted response STAR units piloted in 3 North Carolina cities, Charlotte, Greenville, and in Greensboro, units that are embedded in our police departments, and instead of sending uniformed officers to low-level incidents, we're sending people with the skills, paramedics and social workers, to help people with what they need. I worked hard on high-speed internet. And through the Broadband Modernization Act, which I was the principal sponsor on, we freed up another $500 million in money for high-speed internet expansion in eastern North Carolina. And that's just by making sure we know how government works, that we know how bills are written and going line by line and making the changes that we need to. Know that every single day I'm up there, I won't be outworked. People see me running through these hallways, oftentimes looking like I got my head cut off because there's just so much to do, and I feel like I've only got so much time to do it. But that hustle is there. It's ingrained in me in values that my family and this community ingrained in me growing up, and we are not done. And so I ask respectfully for your vote again to let me continue this good work, to work with anyone who is serious about solutions in a positive way, serious about solutions that change North Carolina for the better. You have that pledge from me, and I hope to visit you in 2 more years of the next event and tell you how much more we've accomplished. So thank you all so much for this opportunity today.
I'll start where he ended and say thank you. Thank you for having me down here to Pitt County. My name is Judge Darren Jackson, and I'm a candidate for seat 11. And so, again, Judge Thompson and I are not running against each other. You can vote for both of us. And if you live in North Carolina, you can vote for both of us. It's a big state. And so one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is if you're interested in finding out more about me or my campaign, you can look at my website, judgedarrenjackson.com. but nobody knows who our judges are. And I can't afford to send 22 pieces of mail to every voter in North Carolina. And so we rely on word of mouth and recommendations from people like yourself. So if you've liked what you've heard today, I hope you will share it with your friends and your neighbors, people you go to church with, people you work with. In my view, for any job, but particularly for a judge on the Court of Appeals, experience matters. I've had the legal experience in almost every type of case that gets appealed to the North Carolina Court of Appeals. I've had appellate experience prior to being a judge on the Court of Appeals. That means I argued cases in front of the North Carolina Court of Appeals. I argued in front of the North Carolina Supreme Court. I argued in front of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. So I had been an appellate attorney before I got the job. Now for 20 months, I'm a judge, and so now I have some judicial experience. And I have a record of fairness and impartiality. And I think if you'll take a look at that, you'll be pleasantly surprised that you can't figure out where I'm going to land on a particular issue unless you looked at the law, because I'm going to follow the law. Even when I disagree with what the law is, I will tell you, in my opinion, I disagree with this law, but it's not my job to change it. It's Senator Davis, Representative Farkas's. It's their job to change the law. My job on the Court of Appeals is to apply the law, right? And so that's what I endeavor to do each and every day. Once again, my name is Judge Darren Jackson, candidate for Court of Appeals, Seat 11. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Saying that experience matters is not just, it's not a cliche. When you've had an opportunity to preside over cases and get the feel for what's happening in the room, when a judge is making a decision and what's happening with the witnesses on the stand, and then it goes up to the Court of Appeals, having that experience means something when you're making that decision on appeal. And so we bring our life experiences and our work histories with us, but it's important to understand that when we are issuing these opinions, we've been there and we know what's going on in the courtroom. And if you can't say that, then you're going to miss the boat. And so experience really does matter. It's not a cliche. You know, former Justice Beasley said, you know, people don't really look for the judges until it's their worst day. And I'm thankful for forums like this so that you can put a name and a face together and get an understanding of where we come from and what we're bringing to the table. Please encourage everyone, don't forget the judges, because all the stuff that's coming, I'm telling you, January 1 is going to hit the bench some way. Local district court judges, or the state-level district court judges. So please look through your phone contacts and pull them up and call them and remind them, don't forget the judges. On this ballot, you know, I tell people we didn't choose to run 100 counties all over this state just because we didn't have anything else to do. Justice is on this ballot, and I know it's at the top of the justice for real is on this ballot. And how could I, with 26 years under my belt, being a trial lawyer, domestic violence advocate, a district court judge, superior court judge, not want to get in here and say, hey, I'm here to serve, and I'm ready to serve all of North Carolina come this November 8th, and I need your support to really push that our judges really matter in this election. I'm Carolyn Thompson. I'm running for the Court of Appeals, seat number 8, and I'll see you there.
Now, Judge Jackson, you said the law didn't matter. It's just a point. I wish you had said that maybe a few years back when you were twisting our arms in the Senate. But everybody, this is about the future of Eastern North Carolina. That's what this is about. This is about fighting for our kids, fighting for our ability to live through health care. This is about fighting for jobs, our ability to put food on the table and earn a decent living right here. And this is what it's also about. It's about the legacy of leadership in Eastern North Carolina. Hear this. This district, this area, has produced leaders such as Walter B. Jones Sr. It's produced leaders such as Eva Clayton, fought hard for farmers and small business owners. It's produced people like Frank Balance, who was very popular and connected with people. And yes, it produced a person like the Honorable G.K. Butterfield, and let's give it up for him. He has served our families for 18 years, fighting hard in the Congress for Eastern North Carolina families. So when we think about what's next, Congressman Butterfield last November said he was retiring, and he used this analogy. He said it's time to pass on the baton. Now, if you've ever been to a track meet, and there's a 4x4. You start, and just imagine Congressman Butterfield running, and you run, and you run, and you run. But there's somebody standing in the curb, and they're watching, running with the baton, running. And they're waiting, they're watching, they're waiting. And you can't wait until the person get up on you to take off. But you have to start running. Before they get there, you time it out and you start running. That's what we've been doing. You know that. We've been doing that, fighting for the East. And you run. And then all of a sudden you throw your hand back and you come up with the baton. And you sprint and you sprint. Now Sheriff Dance said, dance with her. I'm saying run with me to fight for Eastern North Carolina.
Oh, wow, that's hard to follow. I just like to say at the end here that I am a country girl. I grew up in the country. I know what it is to have hard times. I know what it is to scrape for trying to figure out where that next meal coming from and all of that. I'm not someone that is out here trying to put on airs or pretend that I'm this and that. That's not me. And I believe in, again, rolling up my sleeves and working, and I know what I need to do. I know my calling, and my calling is to serve. And when you serve, you take the good with the bad. But you keep moving. You can't give up. You get discouraged? Yes. You feel like you're alone? Yes. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm going to continue to work hard. I'm praying that I get sent to Raleigh, but if not, I'll continue to work harder as mayor. But I'm here to represent District 8 as a whole. I'm here to represent the county. So if I'm ever called upon, just because you're not in my district doesn't mean that I will not answer the call. And I, as growing up as a little child, I always remember my mom, watching my mom. She didn't have the education, but I tell you, she was a hard-working woman. My dad had a stroke and a heart attack, so that meant my mom had to go out and had to go to work. But she worked so hard. She put everything she had in it. You would have thought that she made $1 million a year. But I tell you, when she walked proud. And that's how she taught me to be proud of what I do, whether I'm a doorkeeper, a floor sweeper, or whatever I am. So that is what I'm going to do when I go to Raleigh. I'm going to continue to do that. I want to be able to work, like I said, part of Greenville, all of the areas that I have in my district. I need to be able to hear from the citizens. We need to be able to talk. I don't have a problem going to your house, or if we can do town halls or however, Zooms, whatever you want to do. I need to hear from you because it's not my opinion that matters. My opinions will not put me in that seat. It's your votes that will put me in that seat. So I need to understand, and if I'm doing something that's not right, call me out on it. I believe in transparency. I believe in being honest, and I will make mistakes. I don't know everything, but I will get it right. If I'm called upon, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know so that I can make it right. And I'm going to work hard for you, and I'm going to do everything that I know what to do, how to do. I will go up there. I will learn everything that I need to learn, and I will leave this with you. If nothing else, may the work I've done speak for me. Thank you.
Thank you to each of you candidates for joining us today. Thank you for the discussion. We will now move into the next phase of our program and have closing remarks. Thank you all. Take your seat.
Good afternoon. I'm Reginald Barrett, the Vice President of Pitt County NAACP. We are the largest and the oldest, the baddest and the boldest, the most loved, the most hated, the most feared and revered, the most cussed and discussed civil rights organization in America. We the NAACP. We've been fighting for 113 years, and we're glad about it. The Staple Singers recorded a hit in 1972 of the song that says, "I'll Take You There." I know a place, y'all, that we need to be heading to in a couple of weeks. And if you have a friend or a relative or a neighbor, you should be able to call them and say, "I know a place that we can go together, and I'll take you there." Look at your neighbor this afternoon and say, "I'll take you there." To your nearest polling site to cast your ballot. I'll take you there. Call a friend and tell them that justice is on the ballot. Call a friend and tell them that black lives are on the ballot. Call a friend and tell them that education is on the ballot. And I will take you there. We have no time to retreat. We have to be about our business, and we have to make sure that those who represent us are upholding the Constitution, are upholding the rights of all people in this great democracy we call America. Too many lives have sacrificed for the vote. Minerva, Cassandra, we marched in Selma, right? On the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And I had the opportunity to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where many folks had gotten hosed down and dogs turned on them. So therefore, I don't take it for granted. As a young man who was taught and raised in a house that we were taught early that your vote matters. So this afternoon, I challenge you to go get somebody. Tell a friend. Everybody grab 5 people and say, "Let's go vote." When we vote, we win. I want you to stand up with me all over this auditorium this afternoon. Come on, stand up. We have to get excited about what's on the ballot. We can't just sit here and act like our lives don't matter in this moment and our vote doesn't matter. Our vote is now. Tell your neighbor, our vote is now. Our vote is now. Our vote is now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.